I love that image. It's very good, you know, and it's exactly what it's all about. So cut the rock concert and sleep in the natural fields only.
Yes. What kind of noise we are living?
And that's the periods of sleep when your body, including your brain, the cells are repairing themselves. And many electrohypersensitive people, they completely lose the stage 4 sleep.
But if we have the four stage REM.
And you hear how silly this is. Who is a fluid-filled plastic doll? Who lives in a completely radiation-free society?
Olen sertifitseeritud elektrik, töötanud 15 aastat naftaplatvormidel erinevate EMC süsteemidega. Tegelen elektromagnetkiirguste mõõtmistega kodudes ja avalikus ruumis. Ning paigaldan ka kiirgusohutut elektrisüsteemi ehk elektripaigaldist. Teen erinevaid maandustöid, varjestusi, kõik mis on seotud elektromagnetkiirguste nõrgestamise või eemaldamisega. Täna räägime sellise huvitava inimesega nagu professor Olle Johansson, kes on elektromagnetväljade tervisemõjude teadmiste poolest üks kõrgemaid autoriteete maailmas. Ta alustas selle teema uurimist rohkem kui 30 aastat tagasi ja on pärast seda avaldanud sadu teadusartikleid. Professor Johansson on neuroteadlane. Neuroteadus on teadusharu, kus uuritakse närvisüsteemi, selle anatoomiat, füsioloogiat, biokeemiat, molekulaarbioloogiat ja erinevaid seoseid. Hello, Olle.
Hello, I'm sorry I don't understand your lovely language, but some of the words I could pick up, so thank you for the introduction.
Yes. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get involved with electromagnetic fields?
Well, from the very start, I am then professor of basic and applied neuroscience. I worked my whole life at the Karolinska Institute and the Royal Institute of Technology, which both are in Stockholm. And I got interested superficially, I would call it, in 1977. So you were not even born then, because then it was reported from Finland about leakage of the blood-brain barrier after exposure to microwaves. And at that time, 1977, no one understood that Finland should, together with Sweden and the world, be bombarded with such microwaves. So no one raised the finger of warning. Then in the beginning of the 1980s, I got even more interested, and that was actually after listening to a radio program where a woman in the trade unions here in Sweden, and she worked at the time in Göteborg on the west coast, and she was talking about persons that reported allergies to electric installations or digital or computerized installations, particularly computers and computer screens. And later it was called electrohypersensitivity. But from the very start, people called it electrical allergy. And later on, I introduced the term screen dermatitis because people got different skin rashes, irritations, pricking pain, redness, swelling, and so on, as if they would have been subjected to something else and had an allergic reaction. And from there on, we continued studying these phenomena, not only in humans, but also in animals, plants, bacteria, etc. And now we are at 2025, so it's a long, long time after we initially started. And I should also say that I am retired, but I continue working basically as much as before, or sometimes even more, because the need for knowledge in this particular area is enormous. And you will probably touch upon that later on.
We will now speak about microwaves. Now I will call, and this meter will now show watts per square meter. Can you see the reading?
No, I can't see the reading, but I hear the sound, of course. The electromagnetic fields we are talking about, the radio frequent fields, including microwaves, they are odorless, they are invisible, and they don't come with any sound in any way. But you have them all around you and inside of you, of course, and that goes also for other animals, plants, bacteria, etc. They are exposed 24/7 in a modern society. Then, of course, the question is how dangerous it is, and to be strictly scientific, today we don't know the danger level. So it's very difficult to talk about it, but you should remember that the big players, including the telecom operators, the manufacturers, the World Health Organization, the radiation protection authorities, and very much so the insurance and reinsurance companies all over the world, they tell you to keep it away from your body, and they will not take any form of responsibility for these gadgets. They are sold to you as a consumer as being perfectly safe to you and your children and your relatives and your neighbors and so on. It's completely safe, but that is not what, for instance, the insurance companies believe. And I remember in 2002, I think it was, in London, we were at the conference, and at the conference were many of the big insurance companies, including Lloyd's UK, which is the biggest insurance dealer in the world, Swiss Re, which is the biggest reinsurance company in the world, and so on. And they all said that for them it was not a question whether the radiation from a mobile phone is dangerous or not. They knew it was dangerous. The only question for them was who is going to pay for this in the future, when people are starting to ask for compensation because they have got some kind of damage or health impact or whatever. And they didn't want to do it, and therefore there are exceptions in their policies. And this is public. There is not any hidden. You can find it easily. And the insurance companies and reinsurance companies, they do not take any responsibility for any electromagnetic fields. So they include everything that we use in our everyday work or leisure or home. And very, very few people understand this.
In Estonia, we have regulations from this ICNIRP, and it's this guideline is actually very old. And if you go to ICNIRP website, they have a disclaimer in there.
Yeah.
And have you read this? Do you know about that?
I probably have read it, but I'm not sure which one of them you are talking about.
It's and they say actually they will not take any responsibility whatsoever about the information, about the norms, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I remember again at the conference in London, and that was in 2008. Then the head at the time of ICNIRP, Professor Paolo Vecchia, he said that guidelines, they were never meant to be used for medical or biological purposes. They were only technical in nature, and they could never be used as a protective shield for the industry and so on. So he completely said that no, you cannot use them the way you think you can. But as you know, like the World Health Organization, probably authorities in Estonia, definitely authorities in Sweden and so on, they still use this technical measure. And it's very odd because basically what it says, the ICNIRP guidelines, is that you should live in a completely radiation-free society. You cannot have anything in there, no television, no radio, no radar, no things at all. And then you are allowed to make one single call, either of 6, 10, or 30 minutes of length. And only the heating, so-called thermal effect, is recorded, and it is recorded in a fluid-filled plastic doll. So not in you as a consumer. And you hear how silly this is. Who is a fluid-filled plastic doll? Who lives in a completely radiation-free society? And why do not ICNIRP and other organizations take into account so-called non-thermal effects? So it's extremely fishy, and of course it cannot be used as a guideline, not at all. And therefore, and that's a long time ago, I think it was in 1997, I argued here in Sweden that we need to install instead hygienic safety guidance level based on biology and medicine. And I also pointed to at the time, and it's still valid, the only safe exposure level is the natural background, meaning you have to turn everything off. And that will maybe not happen right now, but then you can say, yes, now you are in a safe exposure. And also what people don't understand, and if we make an sort of description here, and we only talk about the third generation mobile telephony, we take away everything else and only look at the 3G or third generation, and then we ask ourselves, how much more such radiation are you exposed to today compared to for, let's say, 30, 40 years ago? What is the increase compared to natural background? And the increase that is allowed in Estonia and in Sweden is 10 up to the power 18, meaning 1 and 18 zeros times the natural background. And in English, there are no real words for that, you know. Is it colossal? Is it astronomical? Is it biblical exposure levels? Well, it is a quintillion times higher, and it's very odd if such high exposure levels shouldn't leave a mark. And as you know from the scientific literature, there are a lot of different papers nowadays pointing to various effects, risks, etc. But we still have these outdated and extremely odd guidelines, which I would say cannot be used if you are not a fluid-filled plastic doll.
WHO has released some paper that it's possible carcinogenic.
May 31st, 2011, the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, came forward and said it could be a possible carcinogen. And that's true, and it's still in play, you know, it's still valid. And they also pointed 10 years earlier, in 2001, that so-called power-frequent magnetic fields, which is a long name for household electricity, could be associated with childhood leukemia. The first was with certain types of brain tumors, But now we talk also about childhood leukemia. But the problem from an epidemiological point of view is, or I wouldn't say problem, because it is basically very, very good. You don't see any statistically significant incidence increases regarding these brain tumors. And we are not talking about the risk, we are talking about incidence, new cases per year. And if the mobile phone radiation and similar microwave exposures would have an impact, then you would see an increase. And not only in Sweden and Estonia, you would see it everywhere. And you don't. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that there is not a huge risk with microwave exposure, but maybe the outcome, or so far at least, the outcome doesn't seem to be brain tumors. There could be completely other issues at stake here.
I am certified electrician and I build a radiation safe electrical system. I use shielding, all things. And I am also a beekeeper. And this winter we had nine bee houses were dead.
Okay.
Never happened before. So something in the world with bumblebees and bees is happening. And I think it can be associated with 5G because they are installing everywhere the new antennas and a lot of them.
I mean, this is extremely interesting what you tell me now. And I would say it's not only about 5G, because the decline of pollinators has been going on for quite a number of years and has accelerated. So maybe additional exposures have made it worse. And again, we should not be naive. There are a lot of different factors attributed to this decline of pollinators, like honeybees, bumblebees, and so on. But one of them could be the exposure to electromagnetic fields from mobile telephony, from wireless internet and similar installations. And to begin with, as you know, in the Western world, there is a dramatic decline. I have seen reports from the United States telling that more than 75% of the honeybees are gone, and that is just in a few years. More than 90% of the bumblebees in the US are gone. More than 90% of honeybees are gone in Canada. And in Europe, on average, the honeybees have been lost around 75%. So there is something very, very bad going on. And of course, there could be varroa viruses, insecticides, pesticides, changes in the farming landscape, the methods used, etc. And maybe there are a lot of factors coming together. But one of them that has been investigated is the exposure from mobile telephony. And the studies that are published, they are very interesting, but I would argue that they need to be replicated, made once again, and in a much more controlled manner. And we have tried, we have tried to get support and money for such studies, but it has turned out to be nearly impossible to interest people to support our research. But I know that you will show the fundraiser call we have, and I hope that people in Estonia and elsewhere also will feel that this is very important. And I could tell you in a few days, actually on Wednesday, April 30, we will have yet a new paper published, and we in this case is Daniel Favre and myself, where we have studied the importance of natural electromagnetic fields for the honeybees, especially the honeybee queen and the egg-laying process. So natural fields, yes. Artificial fields, no. So in summary, every living creature on this planet, they need the natural background fields, but they don't need the artificial ones.
Yes, I agree that there are some people who say that the Earth is flat. So for me, actually, I don't care. Is it round? Is it flat? It is a magnet. And that is a fact.
Yeah.
So if we compare now magnet, we have one side field, and if the Earth was then it changes north and south pole so quickly. I think this planet was dead. There was no life.
Yeah, and I agree. I definitely agree, you know. And now we talk about like 50 or 60 hertz. Just imagine the gigahertz or terahertz alterations. They are so artificial, and it's a wonder that they are even allowed, you know.
Yes. In Germany, group of people who quite a lot study the behavior of the honeybee, and if the honeybees are dancing, they say then they tell where to go, they communicate, and it's not just dancing, it's they are using their own electric field. So basically we all are electrical magnetical beings. And for me, if in a nature we don't have alternating that changes, how to say, if you have a compass pointing one direction, but if it's doing all the time opposite way, it's messing up the system what is built up.
Yeah, and therefore, as you remember, in 1997 I proposed, actually demanded, that only the natural background should be used as a hygienic safety exposure level. And I remember one of my opponents, a professor here in Sweden, who had always been very harsh on me, he stood up when I had said this and said, well, I generally don't trust Olle Johansson, but this time regarding the natural background fields, he is completely right. So that was very flattering to hear from the strong opponent here in Sweden. So I hope that it will turn out at the end of the day that all these exposures are safe, and that all the insurance and reinsurance companies, the operators, the manufacturers, and so on, will come back and say, hey, we will take complete responsibility for these mobile phones, wireless internet systems, and so on, because they are genuinely safe. But as I said before, they don't do it. They are running away, and they haven't done that now. They started running away at the end of the 1990s. So it's a long time ago when they realized that their products definitely are not safe.
Can you tell us a little bit about what do you know about science with rats and this blood-brain barrier? It is damaging the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, again, that's a very, very interesting area. And there are scientists here in Sweden who have studied it, but also elsewhere in the world. And it has been replicated many, many times. And to make a long story short, what we're talking about is a functional barrier between the blood and the brain tissue. And since I'm a neuroscientist, I can tell you, you don't want to have any leakage in that barrier. But if you expose rats for as short as 1 minute of exposure, and at a level which is 5,000 times below what you and I are supposed to withstand, then you see immediately this kind of rather dramatic leakage. And again, you can start thinking about what would that mean. And as you know, there are a lot of reports from the world regarding, for instance, children and teenagers having learning problems, concentration problems. They could have problems with various intellectual capacities. There have been studies, for instance, with language learning going down when they are exposed to these kind of fields. And in the long-term run, you can also think about, concentration capacity illnesses like AHDH and Alzheimer for the elderly, etc. There are so many question marks here. And while we are talking about it, of course, all countries are exposing the whole population 24/7, day and night, wherever they are, whatever they do, they are constantly exposed. And not only the humans, basically all the other 8.7 million species are also exposed. And I do hope that when the science is concluded in the future, that it will turn out that it was safe. As I said before, that would mean that everyone could come back and say, hey, we take responsibility for these gadgets. But today, no one wants to do that.
Yes, they will not take the responsibility because they know that this is man-made.
Yeah, and as you remember, I told you that in 2002 in London at the conference, and that was kind of a public meeting. So there were a lot of media and others present, and these findings have been presented in Swedish newspapers for many, many times. And the industry, like the insurance industry, they were completely open, saying that for us, there is not a question whether it's dangerous or not. We know it is dangerous. The question is only of economic nature. Who is going to pay for these damages in the future when people are craving compensation from companies and from the state, the governments and so on? And they said, we don't want to take the risk of having to pay for all these damages. So in a way you can say that already then they gave the final answer, what you are talking about, namely the risk of exposure from these modern gadgets. And they concluded it is very dangerous.
Do you know some court cases where they have put up antennas near the school or school roofs, and there were health problems, and later they took down the antennas? I have heard that, but...
Well, I mean, let's start in another corner, and I would like to go to Italy. And if I remember correctly, they have 6 cases of brain tumors that have gone through their entire legal system, ending up at the Supreme Court, and they all concluded that the brain tumor was caused by the use of mobile phones. And you know, in Italy, and probably it's the same in Estonia as it is in Sweden, you will get a pat on the shoulder and maybe a few $1,000 as compensation. But it has impacts, of course, on, for instance, American courts of law, and they are working with such cases. And in the future, maybe we will see a completely different type of compensation being paid out. Then, as you say, there are quite a number of cases with school children, but also staff at schools reporting health problems. And legally, I think they have not been able to tie the health problem together with exposure, but from a, should we say, hygienic point of view, they have still decided to move away an antenna being placed on the schoolyard or on the school building. Just a slight warning, when you move away such a base station, then of course the local gadgets used by the staff and maybe also by the students, the pupils, the children, they will increase the exposure, and that has not been fully evaluated. So it could be the wrong way actually to go, and I would argue instead that they should ask for the removal of the exposure. And now they have just moved one of the base stations, meaning the exposure will increase, and often quite dramatically.
If I remember correctly, in Italy it was 6 volt per meter. In Bulgaria was also 6 volt per meter, but in Estonia we have 61.
Okay. Compared to natural background, 6 or 61 is still in the order of a quintillion times higher. And finally, when I ask around different countries, it seems as if there are misunderstandings and rumors in play here. And most countries, well, actually all countries I have addressed, they use ICNIRP exposure levels. And you remember when you look upon the exposure levels, we're talking about like 9 or 10 million microwatts per square meter. That is the allowed exposure level. And if you look on the natural level, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's something like 0.000000001 microwatts per square meter. And the difference is 10 up to the power 18. And you can just imagine, you know, if the outdoor temperature in Estonia tomorrow will increase a quintillion times, then not only Estonia will disappear in flames, but actually the entire planet will just go like this. So the exposures that we are having, they are invisible, odorless, no sound from them, but they are astronomically high. And people just say, oh, it's safe. And they discard all the science that is already on the table. And for me, it's very odd. Sorry, the insurance, reinsurance, manufacturers, operators, and so on, they don't discard it. They just abandon the ship. And that they did in the 1990s. They don't stay on board at all because they realize that something is very fishy here.
If I think about this natural background, but this is not alternating.
Very good comment. Yes, very good comment. So actually the difference from a mathematical point of view is infinitely big, because the man-made fields, they are genuinely artificial. They are pulsed, they're alternating, and they're completely different from a frequency point of view, etc., etc., etc. So you are completely right.
I have heard, and I like you compare if a firefighter will go inside a house, he will wear protection, but we are
completely naked from that point of view.
No.
And actually, you know, the building is also completely transparent. The electromagnetic fields will enter any building without any real problems, but they will impact cells and molecules inside your body in such a way so you will see damages like on the DNA. You will see alterations at the molecular level, cellular level, and so on. And I say again, I'm surprised that people don't ensure that all these questions are looked into very critically. And it's not the responsibility of the industry or anything. This is the responsibility of our mothers and fathers, and we call them the governments, parliaments, health authorities, radiation protection authorities, and so on. That's the state in every country. They should take on board the questions, and they should employ people that are not also employed by the industry. they should employ completely independent scientists and give them all the resources that they need. And if they, I mean, the governments and parliaments, if they believe that these gadgets and systems are safe, then it must be safe to ensure that, for instance, you and I will get money to study this, because, you know, all the roads lead to Rome, and it's the same in science. If you investigate a safe system, then you will only find that it is safe. So again, something is very fishy here. There are a lot of opposition that's saying, no, 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 don't study this. Study something else, you know, but not this. It's more telling in a way than any scientific test tube data could be.
I was working 15 years
Okay.
in oil rigs, and as an electrician, there are only shielded cables, and all the systems are EMC. That means they reduce the noise, or because it will the fields will disrupt all the other equipments. But if we take that we humans are also like electrical system, so if the fields coming inside our body, there is electricity.
Yeah. And you may remember, and again, I'm a little bit unsure, I think it was 1997, I wrote a debate article or commentary, and I've written more recently in 2022 about exactly this, that if we have a technical EMC, electromagnetic compatibility laws and rules, we must have also human electromagnetic compatibility laws and rules, which we don't. And we also need to have life EMC to protect anything in the air, in the waters, on land, etc. And we don't. And I've demanded that we should introduce these kind of protections. And as you say, you protect one of the cables on the oil rig, but you don't care about the people working there, not at all. And that is fishy again, you know.
I will now share a screen, and I will show when we have the regular electrical system, what kind of noise we are living.
That's a very good illustration, I must say. Very good.
So what I'm asking about ELF, extreme low frequency. I have seen studies what say that it will do a DNA damage as well.
That's very true, yeah.
Can you tell us what can be the body voltage, what's safe? 10 millivolts, 100 millivolts, alternating current in our body?
Oh, that's very simple to answer. The only safe exposure levels to any form of fields are the natural background fields. And for extremely low frequency magnetic fields, that's the smallest increase compared to artificial fields. It's only in the order of 100 million times higher now. That's the smallest difference. So again, the only safe exposure levels are the natural ones, until we can produce data that clearly tells you that, you might go a bit higher, higher, but we don't have that yet. And therefore, again, the different technical corporations don't want to take any form of responsibility. They include in their exclusions every form of electromagnetic fields. And you know, just talking about extremely low frequency fields, the strongest everyday source is not what you would think from the beginning. You would look at the utility service systems for the electricity, but actually the highest exposures from ELF EMFs are from your handheld mobile phone. It's an enormous increase from that. And most people, they carry it on their body basically all the day. And even in the nighttime when they sleep, they would have it under their pillow or on the desk next to the bed and so on. They don't keep it away from them. And having the data regarding the blood-brain barrier leakage, if you're exposed as short as 1 minute, and that was the shortest time, maybe it will happen within seconds or less than that, then you get leakage. You get damage to different systems. So to say that the gadgets are safe, that's a lie.
Is the blood-brain leakage related to ELF or microwave?
The data that is out there points to the microwaves, but you have a very important question here, and that goes for a number of other studies where people, for instance, have looked at power lines and then interpret their data as being 50 or 60 hertz ELF EMFs. But as you know, power lines in our modern society, they carry different disturbances in the VLF and the RF and so on. So it could be another culprit causing the damages seen. But since they were looking at power lines, they thought it must be ELF EMFs. But maybe it's something else. So again, we need more investigations and more experts like yourself that could really do detailed measurements and with spectrum analysis and that kind of things, pinpoint what is actually happening here. And we need, I would say, good laboratory data as well as going out in real life and comparing what do we see in real life compared to the laboratory.
So I will now demonstrate why you shouldn't never ever use mobile phone when it's charging. I will put the mobile phone here. It's not charging. So this is just picks up low frequencies and you can hear the noise. We have nothing. So now I will put phone to charge. And I will use the same, and you can
And now you measured the ELF fields, or
it will pick up this 50 hertz noise. And now if you use mobile phone, it's charging. All the charge is coming inside the body, and body voltage will go. It's different what ground you have. It can go to 50 volts in your body. 20 volts. It's quite a lot. It's very dangerous. Yes.
But I mean, you can say anything because we live in democracies. So you're allowed to make any statement. And I think the interview is excellent because we have differing positions. And that makes it more credible for the viewer. They realize that you add some knowledge, I add some knowledge.
Now I will show a picture that will show basically the same what I have already shown. So basically if you have cables everywhere around you, all the fields, electric field, and it will go to the body, inside the body. And why I say it is dangerous, because you put your hands inside the socket, you will get electrocuted, you will get straight away this exposure. You could die. But now the fields what are around, they are the same electricity. They are alternating, so they are dangerous. Do you all know some scientific work what puts together the high frequency and low frequency? Because all what I have researched, we have microwave research, we have ELF, but we are exposed, all of them. But I haven't seen any research what puts together.
I love the question, because together with a colleague in Greece, Dimitris Panagopoulos, and an American colleague, George Kalu, we have written a series of papers, one of them pointing exactly to what you say now, namely the need to make real-life exposure investigations. In laboratories, you take out like one frequency, basically, and that's very, very artificial, and you need the full exposure situation as if you would be outdoors living in a city or in a country, and a lot of that work is still missing. At the same time, as I said before, many of the investigations, especially using clinical epidemiology, they have gone out in reality, done various observations and measurements, not realizing that, for instance, you have all these higher frequencies, disturbances, like from a power line. And they thought, oh, it's a clean 50 hertz exposure, which it's not, of course. So again, there have been mistakes in both directions. And as I said, I love your question, because that's exactly what is needed. And again, I'm looking for money, resources, funding to be able to pursue that kind of studies. And it would be brilliant to have an expert like yourself on board, so you can really monitor and measure all the exposures. And we are doing as good as we can, but we are not technical experts as you are. So we would like to have both levels on board, you know.
I will show a screen, and people can go to...
Oh, thank
this
you.
is your website.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. You have some colleagues, you do some research as well. If I ask what kind of you have at the moment?
What we would like at the moment to continue doing are investigations, and if you can give people the actual web address would be brilliant, you know, so they can find it. And we are trying to investigate questions around the functional impairment electrohypersensitivity. We are very interested in effects on the immune system. We are very interested in potential connections between, for instance, 5G and viruses and bacteria alterations. We want very much to investigate more the pollinators like honeybees, bumblebees, etc. And also fertility issues. There is a dramatic decline in sperm cell quality, morphology, motility, etc., and having a dramatic impact on human fertility, but also there are now reports coming from England regarding dogs having problems in making small puppies. So something is going on, and it's not only humans that are exposed. And as we said before, even if you have like a dog or a cat or whatever, we are all exposed. We all walk around in real life exposures constantly. We sleep in it, we work in it, we play in it, we go to school in it. And talking about schools, we would love to do more studies regarding children and teenagers, their health, and associated with exposures in schools, back home, etc. So there are a lot of entrances into these questions, and I hope people will be able to support us, because without the support, there is only one thing you can say, then we can't do anything. So we are very much dependent on people's kindness here.
All people who can found, go to Olle's website and you will find information. This work is very important.
Oh, thank you very much.
I remember one person was telling me that she has a hypersensitivity in a workplace. The employer was sending her to doctor.
Why?
Because of the electromagnetic fields.
Okay.
And
well, I mean, it's good to send them to a doctor, of course, because there could be an underlying actual illness. But it sounds as if they, if she is talking about the functional impairment or disability, electrohypersensitivity, and then there is not a medical issue, it's a problem with accessibility. So she needs to have a shielded workplace, shielded home, etc.
Yes. And the doctor was telling her to use cactus.
What? It sounds a bit crazy.
Doctor was recommending her to use cactuses in a workplace, and that was for me it was so weird.
Yeah.
And
I don't understand a thing.
So I don't know, you you put cactuses everywhere and you are in jungle or something, but that shows that we don't have doctors who understand what is hypersensitivity, what to do, what recommendations.
I've never heard about anyone being given that kind of advice. It sounds very unique, I would say. I mean, we should be correct here and say that we don't have the person, the patient in front of us, and we don't have the doctor here. Maybe the doctor and the, was it the woman, I think you said, they had some findings that made the cactus being the treatment. But to be honest, I've never, ever heard about cactuses being used in such a way, and I don't understand. And if it is electrohypersensitivity, then cactuses will do nothing. But shielding and distance, or a combination of distance and shielding, will do wonders.
Yes, and I don't know, have you heard, but there is a lot of items what are selling in websites, crystals,
I know,
shielding bed. It's I know it's all actually fake.
Yeah.
It will not work, and if you use grounding mat and you ground it to electrical system, you cannot never ever do that.
No.
Because the electrical system ground is part of the electrical system.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, we have investigated a lot of these crystals, pendulums, pyramids, stickers, and whatever. And as you say, they don't do anything except costing a lot of money and also putting people in a false safe situation, so they start exposing themselves to a lot more because they have this crystal protecting them, which it doesn't do. And so it's a very cynical game, you know, and people are just trying to steal your money from you as a consumer. And the only gadgets that have ever worked, they were the type of gadgets that are based on textbook physics. Shielding cloth or fabric, it works, yes, if it's properly installed. and distance, of course, will work. But then you always have to ask the electrohypersensitive person. He or she should be like the thermometer telling you that, okay, now it's all right. And not only one time, they need to use the new situation for maybe weeks or months, so they could feel changes in the around exposure, and eventually arrive at the situation where they have accessibility to their home, to their workplace, to their place of leisure, and so on.
Yes. In my experience, when I go to somebody's home, I do the measurements, and then we will see what we can do. And the best way is to change the cables, of course. And one lady was telling me that it took maybe a couple of weeks, and she get dreams back. So that was interesting. Yes.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of times, actually, and not only dreams, but also the general sleep quality dramatically increased over time. And of course, the dreams are extremely important, because you dream during what is called the stage 4 sleep, or the rapid eye movement sleep. And that's the periods of sleep when your body, including your brain, the cells are repairing themselves. And many electrohypersensitive people, they completely lose the stage 4 sleep, meaning that their body deteriorates, and they probably get a lot of other issues as well. And the same goes for normal, healthy volunteers, very often reporting that their nighttime sleep is bad. And when I come to them, I immediately say, stop. Don't put your electric clock near your head. Don't put your cell phone. Don't put your Wi-Fi router, etc. Remove it and turn it off. And then when they come back, like a few months later on, they report exactly what you say, namely a very, very good sleep quality, and they have restarted dreaming.
Yeah, that's quite interesting with the dreams.
Yeah, and you know, this is something we again would love to investigate using standardized controlled studies. But again, we need then, of course, someone has to say, well, I could pay for that. And even if you just give like $1 per year, that's more than no dollar per year. So please go to our website and look at it. You know, it's research.radiation.dk. David Kalle, yes, DK.
For my experience, it's like it is different with different people when the sleep quality will go better. Some say it's couple of days, another say it's half year or something. And
yeah, I agree with that. And you know, when you look upon electrohypersensitive people, if you draw a line, they are healthy, and then they become electrohypersensitive, and some have a very shallow dip, and it's easy to climb up on the other side. But some, you know, they go very, very far down into the electrohypersensitivity, and then of course it takes a lot of time and efforts to come up on the other side. So if it's shallow, then it's easier. If it's deep, then it could take quite a lot of time. Some people even more than half a year, some 1 year, 1.5 years, until they really report that they feel fine again, you know.
Yes, if we talk about the ELFs, low frequency 50 hertz we have here, it's like if you go to sleep and you have wires all over, sockets, this 50 hertz noise will be inside you. But if we have the four stage REM sleeping, it's only 5 hertz or something. So how can you sleep if you if you are in a rock concert with 50 hertz.
Yeah. I love that image. It's very good, you know, and it's exactly what it's all about. So cut the rock concert and sleep in the natural fields only.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be talking to you, and your questions are very, very right to the point. So thank you
Yes,
very
and
much.
thank you for doing what do you do. You do it 13 years or more? More,
Yeah, yeah. 50 years nearly.
nearly
Yeah.
50 years.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
I hope we will speak someday. Maybe.
Oh, I hope so too, because there are a lot of different things that we haven't covered today.
Thank you.